This is episode number 440 of the Health and Fitness Podcast, brought to you by InnerFight in association with our good show sponsors, Smith Street Paleo. I haven't given them a plug for a while. Get on their meal plan and also rate and review the podcast. We used to ask you to do this. Some of you did it. And you get a bag full of Smith Street Paleo goodies if you live in the region. If you don't, we would appreciate if you rate and review the podcast anyway. But we can't send you a bag full of goodies because they might not be in very good shape by the time you get there. But we do appreciate everyone's support. Hop over to iTunes, rate and review the podcast. It's what helps us to get to more people. Today I'm joined by a new member of the InnerFight coaching staff. Tom Walker joins us as an endurance coach with a very interesting background, which we're going to jump into. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mate, Dubai, middle of summer. You decided when you wanted to join. How is things going so far?
Amazing, yeah. So I decided to come out in the middle of the heat, but thought it was best option. Get stuck in straight away.
Mate, you've recently... let's jump into your recent past, and then we'll sort of dig a little bit deeper. You've recently finished... You're not a young millennial, you're an older millennial. At 28, you've recently just graduated from a sports science degree. Talk to us about that, and also about the decision to go to university after, at 25.
Yeah, the sports science degree was a massive part of how I feel, my journey in this industry. It's something I decided to do after not being able to get where I wanted to go, and I could see a blockade that was always coming up was not having a degree.
Right. So
I thought, right, let's get around this, go and get one, do as much as I can in the 3 years I was there, and come out the other side.
Mate, I mean, you talk about some blockades that you're facing. What do you mean by that? Because I see a lot of people these days not going to university and doing all right. So what was it that inspired you or made you think that was a good idea?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to work with sort of higher achieving athletes, and contacting companies to do that, it was just always you needed a degree to be able to do it. So I could see I was always going to be in the industry of sort of not lower level, not to knock on people in the normal fitness industry, but if I wanted to progress further, I was going to need that degree, and they were so right. It really is. It
makes a difference, does it?
Yeah.
Mate, we'll come back to your degree. Let's rewind to sort of the early days of Tom. The role, sort of what growing up was like. Unfortunately, we have to tell everyone that you're from Wales, and now we have two coaches from Wales, which is actually over our quota. But what was life like for you growing up, and what was the role of sport in it?
Yeah, so I grew up in Pembrokeshire, which is as far West Wales as you can go. Really beautiful place, lovely beaches, coast path, lots of wildlife. Just a perfect place to grow up, in my opinion. And sport was a huge part of it. Obviously, a lot of rugby.
Yeah. Is that what you said? Was that your first sport, rugby? Was it?
Yeah. From about 6 or 7.
Wow. So, and you played rugby all the way through. I mean, Wales are not very good at rugby, but it's played quite widely. Here we go. The cheap shots have started already. Yeah. And that was a sport that you pursued for a long time, was it?
Yeah. Till I was basically till I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah, straight through all the time.
Incredible. So, I lost my trail of thought there. So, playing sport, what were you focusing on? Like, what did you want to be when you left school? Was there any plans to go to university initially,
No.
or what was the plan, mate, growing up?
I never really had a plan. I knew I enjoyed playing rugby, so played rugby. I knew I didn't like education, so I tried to avoid it as much as I could.
What didn't you like about it?
I just realised that in school we were learning things that I had absolutely no interest in, but give me something that I could learn and was interested in, and I did really well in it. So, always enjoyed PE, obviously.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't until I did, my first, gym certificate that I actually got anywhere near an A.
Right.
Yeah, I just
and
never
how old were you when you did that?
I think it was about 2 years after sixth form, so maybe 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And I just went to sixth form to carry on playing rugby, essentially. I didn't know what else to do.
Really? So, I mean, it must be an interesting, mate. If you don't really like school and you didn't know what you wanted to do, what was sort of going through your mind? Were you just, I'm going to play rugby, and that was going to be it, or how does it go?
Yeah, I knew rugby wasn't going to be the career. I knew I wasn't good enough to sort of make it in that sense. But
right.
Yeah, I just used to just go with the flow, and someone would say this might be a good idea, I'd go and try that, and then this might be a good idea, and I'd go and do that. I didn't really think that far ahead, and same with A-levels. I started to do A-levels, and I had no intention of doing well in them.
What did you do for A-level?
I did PE and design technology.
Right.
Classic.
But you obviously enjoyed PE.
Yeah, but even by the end, I didn't enjoy it. I
Really?
Failed both horrifically.
Did you?
Yeah. So even if I wanted to go to university, I wasn't going to get in.
You weren't going to get in. Incredible. Mate, then sort of you realised that you wanted to, at some stage you realised that you wanted to be in the fitness industry. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I actually started working as a lifeguard for my local council pool.
Right.
And after a year there, they put me on like a swim teaching course, and then they put me on a gym instructor course. And it was actually at the end of the gym instructor course, the guy teaching us said, all right, you can now go and work anywhere in the world.
Right.
And I was like, I've just done a course that I've got my first A in.
Yeah.
I seem to be pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And now I can go and work anywhere in the world. Like, it's really, really cool.
Right.
So that kind of opened my eyes to what could be achieved within the fitness industry, but
Yeah.
I still had no idea what I was doing.
What was it about that? So that's quite an interesting caption, isn't it? Work anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Like, what did you start thinking about?
I think just getting out of Pembrokeshire is quite a close-knit community.
Exactly. We've led back to my first point about Wales, but never mind, that was a stitch up. Just travel, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I kind of hadn't thought about that far, and
Yeah.
then someone just opened this door, and I thought I'll step through that. And
So what did you do then? How did you step through it?
so I was like, well, where needs fitness industry? Where is the fitness industry? And hospitality, hotels.
Yeah.
So I went on Google, put in hotel gym jobs. Number one was Hilton.
Really?
Went on their careers website. They had one in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Googled where's Abu Dhabi. United Arab Emirates. I thought, where's that?
Really?
Clicked apply, filled it out, and about a month and a half later was on a plane.
Wow, that must have been quite a whirlwind, especially like you say, you're from quite a close-knit community. Obviously, people don't often just hop on a plane from close-knit communities like that into the middle of the desert. So maybe talk us through a little bit what that was like, mate.
It was. I think back to it now, and everything just kind of fell into place. It never felt like the wrong thing to do.
Right.
I've got a pretty solid family that will call me out on when I'm doing right and wrong.
Yeah.
And no one said a thing. No one said, do you want to think about it a bit more? It was kind of just like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I applied for a few other jobs in like the police and the fire service, and they denied me because of life. I hadn't got any life experience. So...
Hang on, you're like 20 years old.
I was like, yeah, exactly.
Oh, incredible.
So I was like, right, this will show them who's got life experience. Let's see what we can do here. Yeah.
So like that, within 6 weeks, you're on a plane to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
To do what job at Hilton?
So initially, I was like fitness/lifeguard, like shocking position.
Yeah.
Literally zero money a month, living in not the nicest place. But the manager showed me a road path and said, if you start doing this, you'll achieve this and you'll get this. So that was the plan. And then after 2 months, got promoted to being full-time personal trainer there.
Wow.
Took on a class, and I was there for another sort of 10 months, 11 months working as a PT.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
In probably, I mean, if you get into, for folks that have worked in the fitness industry, you'll understand. For those that don't, going into a big hotel chain like that at sort of the bottom of the recreation department pile is quite brutal.
Yeah, but it opened my eyes. I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, you learn how little people really do make, and how they're still so positive and look after their family as number one. Yeah, it was an experience that I wouldn't change for the world.
It's quite interesting as well, because I remember you telling me about like your living arrangements at that time. Yeah, was just talk us through that a little bit.
So I was told I would be roomed up with someone of similar age in the same industry. Yeah, because they have big blocks of flats there, and they say you'll be sharing a flat. I didn't know at the time that meant sharing a room. Right. So I rocked up, and they say for the first 3 days you're going to stay in the hotel and get acclimatized to the place and stuff. And I landed really late in the evening. My luggage got lost in Bahrain, so I literally rocked up to Abu Dhabi airport with a passport and a phone.
Yeah.
And driver picked me up and took me to this block of apartments that, just wasn't the nicest. And I said, no, I'm going to the hotel. He said, no, I've been told to bring you here.
Oh, wow.
And it was like 11 at night. And I said, all right, well, I'm not going to win this argument now.
Yeah.
So let's go inside and have a look. And it turns out that the similar age was actually 40. The similar industry was he was a chef. I was a fitness, and Filipino guy who barely spoke any English.
Wow.
Literally 2 single beds in a room with a wardrobe, shit ton of cockroaches.
Really?
Yeah.
What was going through your mind, mate? I mean, that must have been incredible. 21 years old, you sort of just come into that environment.
Yeah.
Did you just want to go home?
Yeah, you just want to go home, essentially. You're like, right, what have I done here?
Yeah.
I sat on the bed and I thought, I won't get through another night here.
Really?
And then I was just tired, so I just went to sleep.
Yeah.
Thought, all right, let's sort this out the next day.
Yeah.
Woke up the next day, went into the hotel. Luckily, my bag had arrived. Spoke to HR, and they said, it is what it is, I'm afraid. And I was like, right, well, I think I'll be on a plane tomorrow. And then spoke to family and things, and obviously that always helps.
Yeah.
And it was just like, look, Tom, you do what you can, and if it doesn't work out, we'll get you back. And if it works out, it works out. And 2 months later, I stuck it out for 2 months, and it taught me a lot, actually.
I guess in those early parts, mate, it was sort of probably day by day, just looking for the positives and looking to gain a little bit of momentum in what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It was literally just get through each day. I'd wake up super early, get to the hotel, and I'd just shower and stuff there because didn't want to do it where I was. Like, it was just horrendous. You wake up in the middle of the night, cockroaches on you, and by the end of the 2 months, it was just like not a problem. They were just mates.
They're just part of you. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And mate, you're obviously working hard. You get promoted, but you said you only stayed for another 10 months. What was your next step?
Yeah, so I kind of just felt I'd hit a bit of a dead end there in Abu Dhabi. So I came back to the UK, or went back to the UK, and decided I wanted to do my level 3 diploma in actual personal training.
Right.
Which was really good to do at the time. I had a year's experience, so I wasn't like fresh into it.
Yeah, all right.
And I started to learn a little bit more about what actually good science is, and not this bro science that we get.
What was it about the sort of fitness industry, mate? You've had that exposure in Abu Dhabi. What was it that sort of interested you and made you want to go back and study more and sort of pursue a career in it? Yeah,
I think it just offered me the lifestyle that I like. Around active people is number one. You get to express motivational side. I like to plan things, so maybe the programming side of it and executing it, I seem to enjoy. I just can't really imagine doing anything else, to be honest.
Fair enough, yeah. It's a very unique industry. So you went back and you do a diploma. Where did it move to from there then, mate?
It got me back out to Abu Dhabi, unfortunately.
Such a good story.
Yeah.
How did you why were you back out in Abu Dhabi?
I had it in my head that I was going to do this diploma, and suddenly everyone would come calling with a job.
Yeah.
I went for about 4 interviews at David Lloyd and got through to like the last 2 on every one, but never got it. So I was in a bit of a sulking state, and then a client I had in the Hilton said, well, come out here, work for me one-on-one for a couple of months, and off I went. Yeah.
Really?
So
how long did you do that for?
So I did 2 months, and then I did a summer job back in the UK.
Yeah.
Working at a beastie camp with children, which was really interesting.
Yeah, talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was. I think I got the job because I'd had exposure to working with people out here in the Middle East, and obviously with the recent surge of fast food and what we know is why a lot of the weight problems happen out here.
Yeah.
They'd come over to the UK and do a essentially a fat camp, if you like, but it was called a weight loss camp. And so I was tasked with doing the personal training side of that. So I'd get a class of 10 to 15 children and have to sort out their class for each day. And we did it for 10 weeks through the summer, and there's some incredible stories that went on with it.
Share some, mate, because I think this is obviously not sort of on topic with you, but it's a huge topic at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a bit interesting to hear a few insights from that.
Yeah, well, at the time I didn't fully agree with the camp's ways. They were it was like a zero fat diet, but they were really good at educating the children on how they should be living in a healthier lifestyle. So they'd have to get up every morning, like get up early at 7, and you go outside and do like a morning warm-up routine.
Wow.
They weren't allowed their phones, which, like, this was 2002 times, so like every kid had a phone then, and they weren't allowed those, and no laptops, nothing like that.
Wow.
And they were on a much more regimented eating habit. And I think what it taught them was, like, you're not going to die if you don't have your phone or food instantly.
Yeah.
And then, there was a really good group of us, actually, who got to, like, take care of the kids and run the classes. And over the 10 weeks, the kids that stayed for 10 weeks, they're losing like 20 kilos. It was unreal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible,
unreal.
Man. That must be something very fulfilling to be part of.
Yeah, again, I didn't really think about it at the time. I realised afterwards, like, what it was.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just like, you're just a job, and you just can't believe the kids are where they are. But I guess now thinking back, it is something to be proud of.
That was definitely a summer well spent.
Yeah.
Continue the journey for us there, mate. What happened next?
So I came back out to Abu Dhabi and Dubai a few times after that with this other client, which was really fun, and that then made me learn. Actually, I quite like specialising in certain things,
right?
Which was good fun, but I knew it wasn't a reality. So I got a job back home in Pembrokeshire at a bike shop that my father owned, which was really good fun.
Yeah.
And then that started introducing me to endurance sport.
I was going to say, was that sort of the first? Were you still playing rugby at this stage? Or what sport were you doing when you, for example, started personal training?
Yeah, I stopped playing rugby. Last time I played rugby was when I first moved out to Abu Dhabi.
Right.
I finished playing out here when I was 21. I moved back to the UK with the intention to start playing again, and it just never happened with work. As you know, the timings in this industry doesn't fit in with team sport too well.
Not too well.
No, so I did CrossFit basically for a couple of years without calling it CrossFit.
Yeah.
I'd find a different way to train, had a kettlebell, I'd carry it around with me wherever I went. And
in the backpack.
Yeah, just would do a bit of ad hoc training.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started working at the bike shop and my old man used to take me out for a spin and absolutely rip my legs off that I started thinking, right, I need to start doing something about this cycling business. Yeah.
What was it that... Was it the fact that he would literally rip your legs off, mate? Is that what sort of inspired you at the start?
Yeah, there's only one sport I've not managed to beat him at now, and it's squash. And I think that's because we just don't get near a squash court anymore. But something that was really good for me was, I was never sort of given easy routes, and I definitely appreciate that now.
So you started cycling.
Yeah.
Was that what? Was the thought just beat dad, or was the thought actually I really like cycling, I can get better at it, or how did your sort of journey into endurance go?
I don't understand why I do like cycling, because at the end of the day, if you're somewhere beautiful, it's lovely, but it wasn't the fact that I enjoyed cycling. It was pretty, Pembrokeshire Hills are rough. Yeah. So it must have been the fact of I need to start beating some people and do better myself. But I then started running as well, and I decided, I think I did a couple of sprint triathlons actually to begin with.
Right.
And then I wanted to raise some money for two charities, Wales Air Ambulance and the RNLI. So I entered a 3-day ultra run called the Atlantic Challenge.
Right. What's that?
And that was 2014, and that's 3 marathons back-to-back on the coast path. You run North Cornwall to South Cornwall.
Wow.
So I think around that point, I started to up my running a bit more, which obviously tied in with a bit more cycling and things.
Why would you enter something like that?
Mate, I don't know.
What was it that made you enter it?
I needed a goal. I definitely missed playing rugby. I missed the team interaction and having that, each week there's a game you work towards.
Yeah.
I think I'd done the sprint triathlons and really enjoyed the competition side of it.
Right.
And I don't know why I entered it.
Really?
I couldn't tell you. Oh, I did a marathon on the coast path in Pembrokeshire.
Yeah.
So I did the last day of this thing that was in Pembrokeshire, which was a marathon, and then someone said, people have done 2 more before this, and I was just like, what?
Really?
And the following year, I was like, that'd be really cool to run 3. And the following year, they didn't hold it in Pembrokeshire. They held it in Cornwall.
Right.
So that's why I entered it.
So marathon a day for 3 days.
For 3 days, yeah.
How did you enjoy that experience? So, you've done a couple of sprints, but sprints are over. an hour and a half, you know, and this is like a big 3 day. Was that the first time you'd actually run, or like the second time you'd run a marathon, really?
Yeah, so my first marathon was off-road on Coast Path.
Yeah.
I then ran a 50k in training for this 3 days. And then, it was this. So it was intense, Yeah,
right. Talk us through it, mate. 3 days, marathon a day.
3 days, marathon a day. Ended up with about one toenail at the end, I think.
Really?
Yeah. And I just sort of saw it that I was raising money. Yeah. So obviously not going to stop or quit. You just got to get through the days. I think they were around like 5 hour days. It wasn't horrendous. I just thought it was like your Coast Path. So you're not going to run all of it. You got to walk a bit.
Right.
But I actually got quicker as the days went on.
Really?
Yeah.
So on the third day was your fastest?
Yeah. Thursday, tore it up. It was great fun.
That's incredible, mate.
Yeah.
So that was, if we say baptism of fire, you're locked in for endurance, really.
Yeah.
Through something like that.
Oh, I knew then I would be doing it for a while.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
And where does the sort of going to university piece fit in with the puzzle now?
Yeah. So I realised then, I need to start obviously thinking career-wise, what we're going to do, and I thought maybe S&C coach would be cool. Physio. My mum's a physio, so I'd always sort of thought I'd quite like to do that. Kind of like the science of it. Yeah. You just obviously aren't going to get those jobs without your degree.
Yeah,
so.
Quite difficult to be a doctor or a physio without studying.
People ask questions a lot.
I think that's why they all have those the plaques up in their surgeries, just to prove that they actually got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of them probably just buy them down in Karama from what I've experienced, but still, carry on.
So I think my last trip out here, I decided, right, I'm going to go and get a degree.
Yeah.
So I actually, bit of a typical me really, applied. I had a look at what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I really wanted something that was applied. So I knew if it was all theory, I'd struggle. Yeah. So I found an applied course. Yeah. And then I thought, I'm going to apply for the masters.
Obviously,
I'm going to get a master's.
Failed my A levels. I'm going to apply for the masters. As you do. Why not?
I got 4 years experience in this industry. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Step aside. So I did. I applied for a master's, and Julie got turned down pretty quickly.
So you apply for a master's, get turned down. Then what do you do then?
Then I rang up the university which was Southampton Solent, and said, right, who can I speak to that's in charge of the master's applications? And they said, this guy. So I rang through and I said, have you got 5 minutes? And he said very quickly, yes.
Really? So you just picked up the phone randomly and just went, I want to speak to the guy who basically turned me down.
Yeah, why not? You can't just send an email saying, no, I need to know why.
Right, fair enough.
And he said, well, why don't you tell me about researching papers? And I said, what's a paper?
So he's got you on the first question.
Yeah, and he kind of schooled me as to actually, nothing.
Right.
So I said, right. He said, but look, the degree you'd be able to do.
Right.
But you need to apply through the proper process.
Okay.
I said, well, I'm going to A-levels and I'm not getting any UCAS points, and I'm certainly not going to go do a foundation thing. So he said, well, come to an open day and you can meet us and we can meet you. And I was like, okay. So I looked at the open days and I couldn't make any of them.
Why?
I think it clashed with work or something like
that.
Okay. So I said, right, when are you free? Can I come and meet you one-to-one? And turns out he was free 2 days after doing the 3-day ultra thing in Cornwall. So I rocked up at the university, hobbling badly.
Yeah.
I'd only managed to fit on flip-flops.
Right.
And I was like, I can't turn up in
that wouldn't be a look,
to
would
this.
it?
Nah.
Yeah.
So rocked up in some espadrilles. Met the guy, and he was giving me a tour around, and I'm thinking, I really don't want to be walking here. This isn't fun, and there's a lot of stairs there.
Right.
And halfway through the meeting, I could see blood starting to appear through the canvas of my espadrilles on my toes. And he goes, you right? And I was like, yeah, I actually did an ultra on the weekend. And he was like, oh, right, what sort of ultra? I was like, 3 days, marathons. Yeah. He goes, oh, okay. And it kind of changed the whole feeling of the room. And pretty much he then just said, look, you do an ultra, you can do a degree. And it was it was quite funny because it was a 3-stage ultra and it's a 3-year degree, and it's you start off slow and then by the final year you're flying. I was like, this is timing quite well.
Yeah. So, on the spot, he's like, you're in, or?
He was like, I'd imagine as long as you apply, you'll get a response getting you in.
Wow.
And I literally did, yeah. I applied when the open thing happened, and 2 days later got the all clear.
So what was it like, mate? You're 25, and you've had some quite worldly experiences. I mean, like you told us before, landing in Abu Dhabi, living in a cockroach-infested sort of flat, making no money, to then go back and, 4 years later, 25, to go back to university to start the learning process again. Talk us through that a little bit, because it must have been quite different.
Yeah. It taught me what, dropping your ego means.
Yeah.
Essentially, I soon learned in the first few weeks there that, what you think you know and you've read out of, magazines and stuff, half of it is just crap.
Really?
Yeah. And
how do you verify that statement? That's very official of me, but
so people might say oh, don't eat after 6.
Yeah.
And then it's well, what is the actual science behind that?
Right. Okay. So
and there's zero.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I learned that, and I just realized I got really locked into it, and I was like, okay, this interests me.
Right.
So I've made the right decision. Obviously, a lot of my other classmates were there for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I was I had it in my head. I was I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to get a degree and here to
really.
To get
so
it
you're
done.
The guy that's just sat at the front of the class, just on your own, doesn't want to speak to anyone. Just I'm here to learn.
I'm here to learn. Yeah, I definitely wasn't at the front. I was I'd just be out of the way somewhere, in the corner, hoping that no one brought it up.
Why is that old guy over there?
Yeah.
Did you feel old, mate?
Yeah. To begin with, there was one of the guys similar
there,
age,
right?
but yeah, most of the people are 18 and
wow.
And but they don't know. If I was there at 18, they were way smarter than I was at 18. So I kind of respected that they could be there, and it was.
I remember when I was at university, we used to have a few. What do they call them? Mature students.
Yeah, mature.
I was who's the dodgy creep up in the
corner?
Exactly.
And I'm I'm the dodgy creep.
You're the dodgy creep. So you didn't want to fit in. You just wanted to get the knowledge.
Yeah, pretty much, mate. Yeah.
And how it must have been an interesting sort of adjustment from going from being sort of out in the world and working to now coming back to studying. How did you adjust to that?
Well, the first year was great.
Was it?
Yeah. I think I had about 8 hours of uni a week.
Really?
Yeah. And
so what do you do with your time?
I saw it as right, let's start training. So it was when I started seriously taking triathlon a bit serious. Yeah. I had to work as well, but I think I was working part-time with Nuffield Health in my first year.
Doing what?
Personal training.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then, I just train. It was great.
So you're now full on into triathlon?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be supported with some bikes from the shop. And so I had no excuse. I was I've got no excuse here to not be doing my best.
And was it still bike was your favourite?
Run. Oh, I don't know. It was around the time I started breaking my feet pretty regularly and having injuries.
Your feet?
Yeah.
How do you break your feet? Literally breaking bones?
You're breaking metatarsals, yeah. So running became a bit of a burden.
Right,
Cycling.
With broken feet, it's slightly challenging.
Yeah, it was.
Great. And then, so you have to cycle more?
Yeah, so I cycled more. Certainly through my second year, I had a really bad injury year then. Right. So it's just bike, and getting better at swimming, yeah.
And I hear that a lot from people. I just need to get a bit better at swimming. Talk to us. Let's jump into a little bit on triathlon. That's obviously what you're coaching here.
Yeah.
How was the balance for you at the start? How was the motivation at the start to run, bike, or swim? And how did you sort of put it all together?
So I knew enough about bike and run to be able to plan. Swim-wise, it was never been my strongest. Although I taught kids to swim.
Right.
I was swim fit in terms of being enough for a lifeguard, but I'd never swam over enough for a sprint triathlon. Do you know what I mean? So the best thing I did was actually got down and joined the club. Joined Southampton Tri Club, and that made me swim twice a week. And then I joined the university club as well. So I had 3 swim sessions a week, and I was getting absolutely smashed.
Really?
And I was I can't swimming on my own is a complete false reality. I need to step this up.
So I guess lesson number 1 for people that are listening, that are involved or are interested in getting into sort of triathlon, that suck a little bit at swimming, is join a swim club.
Yeah, get in with a swim club or someone who can come along and watch you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there how much is there to it, mate? Because it seems that 85% of the people that I speak to have swum as youngsters.
Yeah.
Swimming's a big almost part of curriculums in schools. So, but how bad have people become, or how bad were they anyway? And like, what do you see with people swimming is what I'm getting to.
I think there's a difference between swimming to stay alive, which is normally what you're taught like in school, and then if you see the squad swimmers, so like kids who are in the pool from like 6 through to till they're 18 and swimming like 2 a days, and like there is a huge difference in that, and that's just technique. Yeah, it's technique. Just knowing how to swim and just drilling that technique over and over. Yeah, exactly. It's very technical sport. So, what is the advice to people that don't really favour swimming and that maybe are from that category of swimming to stay alive? Like, how are these guys that work 9 to 5, have commitments, how are they supposed to be getting better at swimming for triathlon now? You've got to put the time in. Yeah. I think you've got to recognise your weakness. Yeah. If it's swimming, fine, let's work on it. Like, it's not going to get better on its own. Yeah. And it's not like you can train other disciplines that's going to help with it. You know, like if you're a bad runner, you can get fit through cycling or like CrossFit and then transfer it to running. Yeah. You aren't going to do that with swimming. You need to get in the pool. Transferable. I would say very little is transferable to the pool, yeah. So if I do loads of shoulders and get absolutely jacked, it doesn't make me faster. It's not going to help, no. So get in the pool, that's really the... Yeah. And should it be the pool or should it be the ocean, mate? Well, where's your race going to be? Yeah. If you're doing sprints, more likely it's going to be pool. If you're out here, obviously they use the ocean a lot more. Yeah. In the UK, it tends to be, if it is ocean, you need to get used to being in rough seas, windy. Cold. Yeah, a little bit cold. Yeah. But sometimes they do lakes. So, yeah, you can go either way with it. But to get technical, get in the pool and regular. So, one big swim a week isn't going to cut it. Right. You know, get in 3 times a week if you can, and they only need to be half an hour's. Yeah. Once you're practicing bad technique, so your form goes, just get out. Yeah. Get out and get yourself back in the next day. I mean, mate, you practiced a lot, and you developed quite quickly through triathlon whilst also studying at university. And last year you actually raced in the World Championships for 70.3, which is half Ironman. Yeah. Talk to us through that, because that's from only really getting involved in your first year in university, and then by your 3rd year you're racing the World Championships. That's a pretty quick progression. Yeah. So I'd raced a little bit before my first year. I think I'd done maybe 2 or 3 middle distance, which is 70.3. But the first year of uni, I thought, I'm going to take this a bit more serious, and so I entered Ironman actually in my 2nd year at uni. As you do. Yeah. I entered Bolton, Ironman UK. Nice. And so all my training was based on that, essentially. Right. And now I look back, it was pretty bad training, to be honest. It was Did you write sporadic. It yourself, or? Yeah, I bought Joe Friel's book. Right, of course. Yeah, pretty legend. Yeah. And then thought, I probably know a bit more about it myself than he does, so I'll take his stuff and I'll adapt it to me. And really? Yeah, so, and then I had a few injuries leading up to it. Yeah. But I knew in my head, I was like, knowing you've got ultras in the bank in your mind, you're not going to fail. It's just about how fast you can be going. So I did Bolton in July, and then I had 70.3 Dublin, I think 4 weeks later. Wow, which is quite short, very short time window for getting over, for recovering from a full Ironman. Yeah, but I think it did me a favour, to be honest. I was probably undertrained going into Ironman, and Ironman was just a big training day. So it's I was going to say, this is a nice 12-hour training day, thanks for coming. Yeah, and then I went to Dublin, and it was quite a funny lead up. Got stung by a weaver fish in the week leading up, and then got stung by jellyfish during the swim. So everything was there for me not to have a good race. Yeah. But cracked on with it. I think it was the 2nd year I'd done that course. Right. So I knew it, and the first year I did it, I'd stopped to go to the toilet, and I was so mad at myself for I shouldn't have done that. And so I was really driven to get it done. Yeah. And got 5th place in my age group. Wow. And then the places, there was 3 slots, and the first 2 didn't want them or had already qualified, so it rolled down to me. And I had a bit of a thing I shouldn't really take it because I'm not in the top 3 officially, but was like, yeah, top 5 will do.
Top 5's good, yeah.
So, yeah.
So how do you juggle that, mate? How did you juggle your final year at university? You're obviously pretty busy there. You're involved in some other projects and jobs as well, and your training.
Yeah. I had a pretty regimented life.
Yeah, talk us through it.
So I was lucky enough in my second year to get an internship with my university's high performance academy,
right?
Which was great, but that took up about 5 hours of my week. And I had set days. I had to be there, coach for 4 hours, and then it was about an hour programming and workshopping, which was really good.
Yeah.
I was working. I was running my own sort of triathlon coaching business as well, like remote coaching.
Yeah.
Then obviously university work and training. So I learned then to sort of start managing my time, planning properly, and not just sort of thinking day by day, actually start thinking a bit further ahead. And you've got a huge goal of the World Championships, which had gone out the way. I'd done that in the September, so coming into my last year, I was like, right, I need to take the energy I was putting into that goal, and now I need to make it happen in my final year with education. So I actually had an off season, which was quite weird.
I think it definitely proves that, although triathlon, multidiscipline, and to get all the training in, you were doing a lot of things. You're studying, you're working, and you're training at the same time. So your weeks were pretty busy. It probably shows that people can do it. It can work.
Of course, of course they can.
Your university was maybe like having a couple of kids. They take up a lot of time, and so I think that's a very, very good message, mate. You managed to make it work, and obviously you came out of university with the highest marks that you could have. Tell us about that. Show off, mate. Come on.
I think the goal when I first went to university was just to get a degree.
Yeah.
And if you said you get a first, I'd have bitten your hand off.
Really?
Second year, I did okay, and a couple of the teachers said to me, you could get a first, and I thought, imagine if I could get a first, and then I just right, I'm going to get a first. So
really,
I picked the subjects I was strongest in and enjoyed the most.
Which were what?
Physiology, really enjoyed. Trying to think what else I picked. Strength conditioning, was a strong one for me. Sports science support, which is more of an all-rounded, looking after athletes.
Right.
And biomechanics, which isn't my strongest in certain areas, but I really enjoyed the biomechanical side of it, movement and things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, right, I picked those, and I'm just going to go all in on it.
Yeah.
And got enough. Well, got more than enough to get a first-class degree, so I was really pleased. And I didn't realise how much I wanted it until I actually got it, and then I thought I'd have been so disappointed if I'd got a 2-1.
Mate, I'm not sure if I even got a 2-1, but I've got a bit of paper somewhere, so that's okay. Mate, talk to us about those components, because if we go back to sort of what we can apply and some of the coaching you're going to do, we see a lot in endurance sports, injuries due to lack of strength, poor movement, poor conditioning. Yeah. So talk to us about your studies on that and how you're going to transfer those studies, or have been transferring those studies, into helping athletes.
Yeah, so movement efficiency is obviously really, really key. A lot of people think, get better at running, let's just go running. And it's that'll work to an extent, but why don't we get you better at running? That means you can keep running after you've already ran, because most people run, they're so tired or hurt, they stop for a week or so, and then they get back to it once they feel better again.
Yeah.
So I started to develop a bit of an interest in how people move and do run, and also bike fitting. I was trained in bike fitting from my days at the shop. Right. That really interested me. So I took those two components and started to work a bit more within coaching with them, and saw it paying off.
Yeah.
And then during my strength and conditioning internship, at the beginning you think, right, you're going to smash these athletes, but actually they do so much training of their sport that they're meant to be doing. They're high-level athletes. Yeah. So I had a rower, for example, and they're spending 12 hours a week in the boat, on the erg, rowing, and they're coming into you, and you're like, well, I've got to make this person stronger and apparently better conditioned.
Yeah,
and what it really comes down to is, no, you got to make them move better and get them to be in a better position so they're not going to get injured.
So how do we do it, mate? Because you said something there, or we've talked about time as well. Triathlons or triathletes are often training twice a day just to sort of fit everything in through a week.
Yeah.
There could be sort of 12 hours, 16 hours of training. what should people be doing? Should they be adding on top, or should they be, for a certain time period, taking away to fix the issues that you've been speaking about there?
Yeah. I think in certain cases, if the issue is causing like a chronic problem, so let's go with knee pain when people are running.
Yeah.
Like, running on it just isn't going to help. And you can do all the strength stuff on it. If you're still running and you're still getting pain, then you need to stop running for a bit. Let's look at what's going on with your knee.
Yeah.
And help to fix it. If it's not causing you pain when you run, but you realise that you could get faster if you can be better. So say you've got a bit of a valgus at the knee and you think, if I could keep my knee straight when I run and get a better ground contact time, that's going to help me run faster. So it's like, okay, keep running and we'll add in a session. But even then, it's like, we'll probably just adapt your warm-up a little bit.
Right.
And that's where people need to you need time when someone comes on board to sit down with them and just like paint a picture of what is going on to help them map it out.
So by that, you mean, like, I like what you said there, adapt their warm-up a bit. So if you've got a run set that lasts sort of 40 minutes and 15 to 20 minutes of that, or 40 minutes of actual running, 15 to 20 minutes could be a warm-up or a cool-down, you just change the approach there so you can actually use that time to work on them, really.
Exactly, yeah. I think warm-ups are so underutilized. Like, people just jog on the spot for a bit, stretch their hamstring, and off they go. And then
you got to crack your neck as well.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
One side to the other.
Crack the neck.
Maybe a few of these ones. If you're watching the video version, you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think I love that point as well, mate, because I think some basic movement and some simple basic movement actually avoids issues that we could face down the road. Whereas when endurance athletes generally look at strength and conditioning, they're like, I don't have time to fit it in.
Yeah.
But it can be so much simpler, can't it?
So much simpler.
Talk to us a little bit about, like, you've done a couple of classes here already at InnerFight. You do them on a Monday and a Wednesday. Good plug. 6 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Don't be late.
Don't be late. They're open to anyone. Just come, pay, get involved. It's all good. What does that class look like, mate?
So it's called Strength and Conditioning for Endurance Athletes. And a question I've had so far is, I want to get better at endurance. And it's it's not going to be a really hard CrossFit class.
Yep.
Your heart rate is going to stay pretty low throughout of it. We're looking at movement efficiency and mechanics. Right. So I start the class off with a pretty standard warm-up that I actually want people to be able to learn and take away. A lot of trainers hold on to their exercises, don't watch. But I'm like, take this and use it.
Yeah.
I want to see you doing this Tuesdays at Track Tuesday. I want to see you doing it at Akudra. People looking at you weird. They're all exercises that they're body weight. You don't need any equipment.
Yeah.
Just get on and get them done.
Absolutely.
They take 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So we do that. And then we go, at the moment, the first thing, the biggest feedback I got was people want to run better. So we're going through some run skills, some run drills.
Right.
And that is just getting people to be aware of where their feet are actually landing and what their balance is like when they're running, because some people, you see them waving all over the track, they're all over the shop, their knees hurt, their ankles hurt, and it's like, well, that's because when you land, your body doesn't know where it is in space. That's
because they learned to run in a 70s disco at uni. It's perfect. So a lot of it's awareness, right?
Awareness, definitely.
Yeah.
And I take a few different models. Some of it is plyometrics.
Yep.
A lot of it is just run skills and drills. Don't bombard them with it, because actually it's quite neurologically quite demanding, and if you haven't done a lot of it, you're going to be pretty smoked for the next day. So we just do 10 minutes of that, and then I get some strength work in. So I want to hit the big components of strength. So Monday we did squat, and actually I got them to work down to a 2-rep max. So we do a bit of percentage of max reps work to really make it utilize their time, because people are busy here. I don't want them just coming in and squatting, getting sore legs and leaving. I want them to come in and today you're squatting you're doing 3 sets at 90%, and we're going to do a back off set at 50. And why? Because that's going to help your muscular endurance.
Right.
And you're not going to leave smoked. You're going to leave feeling better about it.
Yeah.
And over time you're going to feel a progression. So I want people to be coming along to 10 sessions in a row and moving up.
Yeah.
But I don't want people leaving not being able to walk, which was what I think was happening a few times. Endurance athletes are coming to the CrossFit classes, and they're
exactly.
the class is great. I feel really good.
Yeah, but then I can't do bikes.
I can't bike the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we do that, and then we finish on your favourite, mate, with a bit of core work.
Yeah. There we go. We can, mate. Talk to us about that, because in there was one thing you said there, and I know on a bike it's super important, but what we see a lot in running is people have such poor core stability that their upper body is moving around like they are at a disco. Like they probably dance, or they probably run like they dance, and they probably dance like they should be. It's a disaster, right?
I don't want to see whatever the weather. I don't want to see what it is. But if they do dance like they run, then we got some problems here in the discos.
There's no coordination. But all of that is rooted in their core.
It's in core and then stance phase of the run. Yep. So, but if you've got poor core, you're going to struggle with stance phase during running. So what I'm looking to do is essentially connect like the upper body, so like the shoulders and the head, which are heavy parts of the body.
Yeah.
Be able to connect that in a stronger way to the lower body for what. So when you do stance, it's not your balance. If you're off balance, it's not knocking you off to the side. You're able to maintain a strong core the whole time. So it's a lot of holds.
Yeah.
All angles. So working front, back, obliques, transverse abdominis. That's really important for triathletes.
Transverse abdominis, if you remember one word from this show.
Take that one.
That one. And also, mate, super important for cyclists as well.
Cyclists, swimmers, there's a certain element of rotation to swimming. You need to work anti-rotation and controlled rotation, not just flopping over. And then people wailing with their arm coming in
Everyone's thinking, do I flop when I swim?
Yeah, you probably do. And then for cyclists, like the biggest thing we see in bike fit is like controlling posture on the bike. And something the other day came out about like, core work for cyclists is rubbish. And it's like, you just can't say that. If you didn't have your core, you just chin the handlebars every time.
You'd just be falling on the handlebars.
So core work is absolutely essential for cyclists. And I don't know what people have in their head that core work is, but it's something as simple as like warming up properly using your core. That is core work. And
I think as well, mate, I think there's a little bit of a like, is core work just sit-ups? And that's what people think, and that's why I spend a lot of time sort of trying to help people to understand what posterior chain is, especially like I feel it when I run a lot. Like we're naturally pretty much everyone's very quad dominant. We don't use our hamstrings enough, we don't use our glutes enough, and they're actually a lot bigger, so it's actually engaging those muscles, bringing them into play to help us perform better.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to do more work with less demand on the muscles, essentially.
Yeah. Mate, let's jump back to you personally. Obviously, you're still quite young. You still have goals. Doesn't look it. You still have goals in triathlon. Share with us some of your triathlon goals.
Yeah. Well, very short term was I thought I'd have a crack at going to South Africa again this year for the World Champs. Race at Stafford, and still don't know if I would have got a slot or not. The presentation went on too late. I had to leave, but did okay there. And then now it's all eyes are focused on European middle distance, which is in October in Ibiza of all places. God. So we're going InnerFight party in Ibiza.
InnerFight party in Ibiza. There we go. And longer term goals for endurance, mate?
I think for any triathlete, well, in the sort of middle to long distance, Kona is the goal.
Yep.
So I'll race a few more times, try and go to the World Championships for 70.3, which is next year in Nice. So that'll be a really beautiful place to go and do. And then, at some point, hopefully early next year, I'll choose an Ironman and try and qualify to go to Kona.
Kona, if you don't know, folks, go and just Google it. It is the mecca of triathlon. It's where the first Ironman race was completed.
Yeah, although it's something like it was on a different island. They get a bit funny about it.
They do
I don't know.
still,
It's not about where it is. It's more about I just want to go and like compete with the best and say you've been,
Yeah, and that's where although the 70.3, the half distance World Championships move around, the full distance Ironman is always in Hawaii, Kona, Hawaii every year.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's supposed to be quite special.
Yeah, pretty good side effect to qualifying is you get to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, which obviously brings its benefits as well. Get to cycle through all the big lava fields, and as Flanners has told me before on the marathon, dropped a bottle on the road and it burnt into the road within a few seconds. So he's a bit of drama.
Like Flanners back to me.
He's a bit of drama. Mate, let's wrap things up, and as we do with everyone that we have on the show, you should be no different. I want to appreciate you for coming on the show and obviously for being with us here, but I want to ask you a simple question to close things out. Is along the way you've obviously had a lot of great experiences in your 28 years so far, and you've done some very cool stuff. If you could wrap everything up in one piece of advice that you want to leave the listeners with, what would that be?
I think it would just go with your gut instincts, and you'll end up doing what you want to do and then just enjoy it.
Awesome. That has been Tom Walker. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for tuning in. Tom, thanks for your insights. If you want to get in touch with Tom, if you want to pay for any of the services that he offers, either that are on the menu or that aren't, tw@innerfight.com, and he'd love to hear from you, Tom. Thanks very much and best of luck.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.